just this is our experience and opinion. So when everyone's different, everyone's holiday's different, everyone has different experiences, but this is just ours, which might help people similar to our age, because as you know, because during our research for this stuff, there was a lot of YouTubers out there that are younger, and the hipsters, and you know, the pretty girls with the pretty boyfriends that go out and do completely different things to us.
Yeah, they actually want a completely different experience to what we might have even though they may have visited similar places. Like, because they're younger, they've got way more energy, they may be hiring bikes and scooters, they may be going out to all hours of the morning to the really cool bars, and you know, maybe drinking more than us, and maybe being more interactive with different parts of people in Paris, because they are going out more. So yeah, this is purely from our perspective as two 50-year-old women travelling together singly without any other company.
Yeah,
we're two 50-year-old women who have just spent 3.5 weeks to nearly 4 weeks travelling around Europe. We flew from Sydney and Brisbane, where we met in Singapore, and then from there flew into Paris, where we stayed for 4 nights. And I suppose we want to give you a bit of a rundown on the do's and don'ts of the countries we visited, and our personal opinions on being this age and travelling, and the disadvantages and advantages.
So first of all, we went to Paris. It was a lifelong dream of mine to go. We wanted to see all the regular stuff, mainly the Eiffel Tower for me, and the Louvre.
Pre-organised the Louvre and the Eiffel Tower. Other than that, we did a pre-organised food tour in Montmartre.
I think that's a must when you first get into a place. Do a food tour within the first couple of days, at least in the first 2 days, because it gives you a lay of the land and what to expect and where to go, and gives you a base of something to work on. So we did an Eating Europe tour. It was called PJ's
Food tour, which was absolutely amazing. We learned a lot about the food and wine culture and history of Paris, and the backgrounds of food and wine, from being organic, biodynamic, to everyday stuff, and what to eat, where to eat, what not to eat, and where not to eat, and Western takes on things. So that was probably the most invaluable thing we did from my point of view.
He showed us, we met in Montmartre. He walked us around the streets. He's very knowledgeable. He was from the local area. He knew everyone, stopped in the street and spoke to everyone. But, you know, we tried pastries, we tried cheese, we tried wine,
chocolate.
Yeah, it was just really good.
Snails.
Yeah. And then we finished going to his restaurant, because he's a chef, and he gave us different wines, and he taught us a brief overview of what wines to eat with food, and you know, what foods went well, and
it was really informative. I like drinking nice wines. I'm definitely no wine connoisseur by any means. Sandra's definitely not a wine connoisseur, or wasn't. She is a regular Jacobs Creek Sauv Blanc girl, and now she has not disliked one bottle of local white wine that we've drank on our whole tour. So I think she will be ditching her Sauv Blanc.
My $7 Sauv Blanc.
So he taught us a lot about wine and origins and regions and grapes and soils and environments, and you know, where the taste come from, and you know, so we learnt so much. So we've ended up drinking local wine wherever we've gone, and unfortunately we haven't really drank red wine or much rosé. It's been mainly white wine for us, because we both really enjoy that. So yeah, PJ's tour was hands down the best thing that we done.
and the flavour did taste different with each food that he served us. So
Yeah.
it really made me think about wine and how it went with food and how different it can be. So don't be afraid to try the different wines. If you're at home and you're used to drinking your Chardonnay, try the other local wines, because you'll be very surprised, especially if you go on a tour and are taught a few things. It really will make you appreciate the experience of the food and wine scene a lot better.
And as long as you know the basis, whether you like a sweet wine, a dry wine, a mineral based wine, like pretty much you can explain to the waiter what your preferences are, and they'll generally recommend what they think you should be drinking. And it's not necessarily the most expensive bottle of wine on the list. Quite often we've been recommended one of the cheaper bottles of wine. So it's just a matter of explaining what your preference is, if you know what it is. And if not, and you do like wine, well, it's definitely worth doing this tour.
Don't be afraid to try butter and pastries, because it is everywhere. The pastry shops are like every
second shop.
Literally every second shop, and they have got the most magical pastries and bread, and the butter is not like the butter you'd get at Coles or what's it called, mainland butter or anything like that. It's
their everyday butter that you may get in a restaurant with bread. I mean, it is to die for, but it's like you'd be paying $9 for a 100-gram roll in a specialist deli at home.
It's just, it'll change your life. We'd recommend stay in a place that you think you'd really like. We stayed in the east side of Paris, which there wasn't too much around, plenty of restaurants and things, but we had to get a metro to get anywhere. We really liked, as Rachel said, Montmartre. That would have been an ideal place
for us to
base
stay
ourselves if we had known.
The reason being, we loved walking around there. We loved the restaurants, the food. We loved the culture. The people were pretty cool. Lots of fun bars, crossed with a bit of history. Not saying where we did stay was a bad place to stay. It was pretty central to get on the metro and travel in and out. But in hindsight, we probably wouldn't stay there again. And if you're a city junkie and your things, the Eiffel Tower or the Louvre or all those things, then stay closer to those places, because you can spend a lot of time navigating people and traffic getting from A to B. So we probably stayed in just before high season started, and it was still extremely busy. Really easy to travel around on the metro. And there's lots of people riding scooters, bikes. There's all forms of transport in Paris, so it's whatever you're comfortable with. We chose the metro just because it was so simple, and Sandra had done a little bit of research beforehand on how it all operates and getting tickets and getting from A to B, so it wasn't too difficult. But you can hire scooters, you can hire push bikes.
And I'd highly recommend, if you're coming in from the airport, get a transfer.
Yeah.
It's the easiest way. Book a transfer. You've come off a plane, you're tired. It's super easy. They meet you at the arrivals hall, pick you up, help you with your bags in the car, and take you directly to your accommodation. I think it would be more difficult getting a train and navigating with a taxi. That's just our opinion.
Yeah.
And just keep in mind, this is just for Paris. We didn't go anywhere else except Paris itself. So, disregard this if you've something different for other parts of
if you're going
France.
to the country or the coast of France, then
this may not apply. So this
all.
is purely just our opinion on
Paris
for the minute. So some negatives for Paris this is our opinion and what we found as 50-year-old women who
we weren't travelling with male partners. We've been travelling on our own.
Just our own, just with our suitcases, and just did our own thing, and nothing really was planned as such except for the odd tours and things like that. So, because basically our days ran from getting up, exploring, finding somewhere for lunch, having some wine, going for another walk if we had, somewhere to go to, which we sort of tend to try and do in the morning. But and then we'd either come back, have a break, and then go back out somewhere for dinner, and then it just depended what we were doing. Our nights out were just basically going out for dinner and having
a glass of wine and wandering the streets. So we did a lot of walking. It didn't matter where we were. Like, you pretty much average anywhere from 15,000 to 20,000 steps a day. So again, like that was our thing. We were prepared for that. Even though we were catching metros in between. Once you get from A to B, you're walking.
Still got to walk.
Yeah.
So some of the negatives for Paris that we found, again, this is our opinion, is just be a bit careful on the metro.
Oh, yeah.
We made a mistake. We went to the Louvre and did our thing, and then walked out and sort of just followed the crowd when we went out, because it's crazy. There's people everywhere. And
we were really, really tired. The Louvre in itself, as wonderful as it was, even though we had pre-booked tickets, we thought that was to skip lineup. So first of all, we had to line up in a snake sea of people in a lineup waiting to get through security to get into the Louvre. And that was in probably, I reckon, about 30-degree heat. So to begin with, we were on the back foot. We were very hot. There are people walking around selling bottles of water, and we did have water. It wasn't an issue, but we didn't expect to be waiting for nearly an hour outside in a massive lineup in the direct sun. So when we left there, we were very, very exhausted and just found ourselves following people. Yeah, which led to the metro incident.
Yeah. With the crowds and the lineup, that was with a skip the line ticket. So you'll find on a lot of tours, like a lot of ticket places that you'll buy online, it'll say skip the line. Take that with a grain of salt, because you're skipping the line as in you can get into whatever you're going to, but the security lineup is what takes the long time. There'll be one person, one security guard checking everyone's bags. So
hundreds and hundreds of people.
So the issue is not getting into the attractions, it's the lineup for the security. So if you've got a skip the line ticket and you're on a time crunch, and you've got a ticket for 8 o'clock in the morning, and you think you're going to get in there at 8 o'clock. Same with the Eiffel Tower. We had a ticket booked for 4:30 in the afternoon. We didn't actually get into the lift to go up to the Eiffel Tower. It was about 5:45.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So if we'd had something due at 6 o'clock to go to, you would have missed it. So that's one thing that we never... Everyone says there's lineups, there's crowds and everything, so that skip the line tickets, in our opinion, mean nothing. It means nothing. You either need to get there at 6 o'clock in the morning and stand in line, so you're actually first in line.
Yeah.
If you need to get things done out of the way, if you've got a train to catch in the afternoon.
And don't necessarily think, like with the Eiffel Tower, like some of these main attractions in Paris weren't necessarily bucket list things for me. I went to Paris because it was something Sandra wanted to do. I more enjoyed the food side of things and the culture, but I did enjoy going to the Louvre and to the Eiffel Tower, and I'm glad I seen those things. But yeah, like the whole Eiffel Tower and lining up and going inside the Eiffel Tower and then lining up again for toilets, for food, or lining up for lifts. Like there's different sections within the Eiffel Tower where you've got to line up for lifts and things, and the toilet lineups, like all this is it adds time to your trip. So you don't actually account for any of this. You know, when you see people or you're reading about things about the Eiffel Tower, I think you think you're just going to arrive and get a ticket, or if you have a ticket and get in there and get up. It's not. It's like hours and hours of process. By the time you start to the time you finish, it's easily 4 hours. And then you've got to walk back to somewhere to, you know, catch a metro somewhere. So if these things are of interest to you, then I highly recommend that you do your research, find out when these places open, and do them first thing in the morning. Save the rest of the day for eating and wandering and seeing things that maybe you don't necessarily have to line up for.
And literally, when we mean first thing in the morning, we mean when the gates open. If the Eiffel Tower opens at 8, be at that gate at 8.
Or quarter to 8, and I'm sure there'll be a lineup at starting already, but you get in there, get it in, get it done, and then you've got your rest of your day, because if you leave it any later, you're looking at a six hour day easy. Yeah, definitely. Easy. So it's a big chunk of your day from when you wake up, and then that's 6 hours gone. So don't think you're going to do 3 main attractions in that day if one of them's the Eiffel Tower or the Louvre or something else as equally as popular or touristy.
Well, and we booked the Louvre, where the Louvre was late. I booked tickets late because it was a Friday night when we first got there, and the Louvre is opened at night time on Friday nights. And the research I did was that it was less busy and it was easy to get around, and it shut at 10.
No way.
No way. It was crazy. It was manic, and there was people everywhere. Like, it was just insane. And this is at 7 o'clock at night. So again, the research and things online just didn't add up. It didn't ring true to what was actually happening.
Yeah. And that's where we started back to the beginning. We had a metro incident, so we left the Louvre, after feeling like that and in a sea of people, and then next thing we're on a metro platform going back to where we were staying, and we were on the metro and there were 2 young boys standing in front of us, and I seen one of them who kept dodging his glance down towards where Sandra was standing, and instantly I knew there was something wrong. But because they were standing up and we were sitting opposite each other and watching each other, and we had nothing exposed, no phones in pockets or anything, like, we had bags that were locked and blah blah blah, but there was definitely something these boys wanted. We
had a feeling, we both had a feeling that something was not right.
Yeah, and one sat down next to us. The seat became available, so we sat down, which I don't know what the point of that was I don't know what was going to happen, but next thing we were at another platform. The doors have opened, we've got out, we were being followed. We found a woman who works at the metro. She was helping direct people in different areas, and anyway, we just hung by her until they disappeared, but they kept looking back, watching us, and then they seen us leave, and then they followed us again.
It was quite a little bit distressing, but
so you just have to be aware, and maybe don't travel if you're, I just feel like, unfortunately, the reality is our age, I think, makes us a little more vulnerable than other people, and if you're not travelling with a male partner. So I just think we stood out a little bit as easy targets. So, that don't travel at night on the metro, maybe. I don't know. If you're by
yourselves, unless you're confident and know where you're going. And I think we were just a little frazzled, and when we got to our destination, we couldn't get out of the metro. There was no exit. Like, it was crazy.
It was like a rabbit warren.
And we were just like, well, where is this exit? So we ended up catching a lift upstairs, and all of a sudden we popped out, and our hotel was just across the road. So
Yeah.
just be careful. It's like obviously all other research that we found, it has said, yes, there's pickpockets, yes, there's, be careful of your belongings and things like that, which we were, and we were just vigilant. You just got to be highly vigilant, and if you sense that there's something wrong, there probably is, and just remove yourself from a situation and find help, or just go within another crowd of people. Yeah, it was just a set of circumstances where we just followed the crowd out of the Louvre, and that's how it was. And it ended fine, but for a hot minute there we were a little scared. That's our tips for Paris.
Yep.
Yeah. So we've got more tips for Croatia and Italy coming up. So thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed and get some tips out of this.
I hope this is helpful in some way of what not to do.
Yes. Because, as I said, we could not find anything that gave this information about,
Well,
Paris.
mainly for people our age.
Yeah.
We keep referring back to that only because there's not a lot out there for this age group.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.